I'm going live on YouTube. All right, that looks good. All indications are green. Okay, your meeting, Mr. Colwell.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular board meeting of June 16th, 2020. I would like to thank all of my board members and our guests for being here this evening. And again, this is another Zoom meeting, and possibly next month we could be, depending on the governor's order, back to actual live in-person meetings. So with that, I would like to call the meeting to order at 7:02. And I would like all of you to recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of
of
the
the
United States of America and
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, roll call, please.
Mr. Colwell,
Here.
Mr. Lilly's here, Mr. Roman,
Here.
Mr. Ruggles, Mr. Powell,
Here.
Andrea Voorhees,
Present.
Liz Smith,
here,
one absent.
One absent. Thank you. I am looking for an approval of the agenda. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a couple recommendations for the agenda this evening. One is the addition of item 9D, which is resolution 20-020. And the other one is item 10B, the clarification on the IT right contract.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to amend the agenda as noted.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion from Mr. Lilly. Look for support. Mr.
Support.
Powell, support. Roll call vote, please.
Liz Smith,
yeah,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Mike Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Oley votes yes. Mr. Colwell.
Yes. Thank you. Duly noted. Item carries. Item number 5, public comment. At this time, typically in our in-person meetings, we let people chime in along the way. With this particular media, we are not in a position necessarily to do that. So we would like anyone that has anything to say, whether it's on or off of the agenda at this time, to please speak up. There is a raise your hand mechanism. I believe was it pound signed?
It's star 9, Mr. Colwell.
Star 9, I beg your pardon, I stand corrected. So at this time, you will have to identify yourself for the recorder, if you would. So at this time, I ask for any public comment. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to state your concern. Ken?
And again, callers, the feature is star 9 on your keypad of your telephone. That alerts us that you would like to speak, and we will unmute your line. I see no virtual hands raised at this time, Mr. Colwell.
Okay. Seeing none, we will move on and close public comment, and we'll move to item 6, consent agenda. Item 6, consent agenda. Mr. Clerk? Terry? Anything about the consent agenda? Can I get you to do a motion?
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Powell has made a motion to move the consent agenda forward. Looking for support.
Henry will support that.
Terry has supported that, or Andrea has supported
And
that?
will support.
Andrea Voorhees has supported that. I have motion and support to move approve the consent agenda. I would like to have a roll call vote, please.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Mike Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Colwell.
Yes. Thank you. We have the minutes for approval. I would like to do them both together if we could. Items A and B, the minutes from the regular board meeting of May 19th, 2020, and approval of the minutes from the special board meeting of May 27th, 2020. Mr. Powell.
I have no problem with them being moved together. I have a very small issue on the minutes for May 19th. If you go to page 6, and this is more for the English teachers may be in us. Page 6, of 10. Don't know who that was, but under C, the bottom of the page, starts with Supervisor Kowal, and then goes on to read, oh, I see, Liz is online now, so. So Supervisor, it starts out by saying, Supervisor Kowal indicated that the township has positioned, it should be itself, not its selves. Just a very small grammatical error, but with that, I move to approve both minutes as corrected.
Okay, I have a motion, Mr. Roman.
Guys, I had one change. Also on the May 19th minutes, on page 10, fourth paragraph, where it says Treasurer Roman personally thanked Elaine and Chelsea. Chelsea needs to be changed to Lisa. And that's all I had.
Very good.
I'll accept that change and still make my motion.
And I'll support it.
We have a motion, we have support. Roll call vote, please. Mr. Lilly?
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Kowal.
Yes, thank you. Item number 8, presentation. This is a recognition of Master Municipal Clerk designation for our Deputy Clerk, Kathy DeRocher. It's a very, very magnificent accomplishment. Terry, I will let the floor be yours.
Yeah, for the members of the board, I would urge you at some point of time, maybe to go on to call it IIMC website, and might give you some insight of the background for Kathy. I've had the privilege and the honor to have Kathy as my deputy for the last 12 years. This award is a culmination of long, intense days in the class, many times sitting for 8 hours straight, having, and it has not always been fun, but she has endured. This award represents her commitment to excellence and professionalism. No other deputy clerk in White Lake Township has ever attained such status. One of those being the CMC, which is Certified Municipal Clerk. The other award was the Michigan Professional Clerk, and also most recently the Master Municipal Clerk. And I might add, those are all qualifications that are really clerk certifications and not necessarily deputies. So, so she now has possessed all 3 of those certifications. And just to give you an example of the time that it takes, roughly we get about 3 credits for every 8 hours of classroom teaching. And I would say, I know Mike has Lou Bender for some of his classes, and it's really intense sometimes, and have learned a lot. There are not enough words to express my support and appreciation to Kathy DeRocher for a job well done and well deserved. The people of White Lake Township should appreciate her accomplishments, a dedication to make White Lake Township the best place to live, work, and play. Congratulations, Kathy. Job well done.
Well done, well done. And,
Good job, Kathy.
Thank you.
yeah, great job.
Thank you, Jerry.
Represents a lot of hard work and a lot of dedication. So it's certainly appreciated by the Township Board and the community at large, I'm sure, and all the staff here at the Township. So again, thank you very much. So with that, you get a $100,000 year raise. Okay, thank you very much, Kathy, and congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
We would like to see that document hanging on your office wall or in the halls of the clerk's office soon.
Yes.
Framed. Thank you. Okay, moving on to, anybody else want to say anything before I move on? Good? We're all good with that? Okay, again, thank you. Resolution 9A, tentatively declaring its intention to establish a special assessment district to be known as a 2021 through 2025 residential refuse collection project. As the board members will recall, we've discussed at various times and at length the new contract opportunity that comes before us, of which we're still bouncing a little bit back and forth between the vendor and ourselves. However, we do need to move forward with creating the district, and this is just that. It's tentatively declaring its intention to establish a special assessment district known as the 2021 through 2025 residential refuse collection project. Counselor, do you have anything to add?
Yes. Before a motion is made, I would like to ask that a few changes be made to the resolution itself. Is this when you want me to do it, or do you want to have discussion first?
No, let's go ahead. If you see something that you think needs to be addressed, by all means.
So in the header, where it says at the regular meeting of the township board, where we say via Zoom, I do like to add in there, because 20 years from now, we might not really understand how we did this, but I like to add in there, in accordance with Executive Order 2020-75. And then in paragraph 2, this has to say where people go for public hearing. So it has to be a little bit more definitive than what we have here. I don't have a problem with picking a location and doing an and/or Zoom video conferencing, but this alternative location, it doesn't satisfy the requirements of designating a location to accept public comment. So if you want to keep it the township hall and just take out or alternative location, which would then be the township hall and or Zoom, which would allow you to do it both either way or both ways if you choose to do that. Or if you want to put it the annex, but we do need to be definitive in the location.
I would say township, well, it could be township, Zoom, hall, or annex.
I think for purposes of the public hearing in this resolution, we do need to put it in the resolution. I don't think an alternate location.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It should say Zoom, township hall, or annex. Would be the 3 potential. Did you get that? Go ahead.
But then you're still putting an alternate location. You're not putting a definitive location for in-person. So you can't right now decide whether it can be.
I would say the annex then.
I'm sorry?
I would say the annex, township annex.
Are you okay with, are you comfortable with doing that then and committing to that?
Yes, I am. Absolutely.
And then the third place is paragraph 4. This may be done, second sentence, this may be done by appearing in person or participating by Zoom video conferencing if applicable. I think that corrects all the locations to account for this unusual situation. And I can help Janine tweak this, but.
Hey, Lisa, won't there be a public advertising of that meeting again? This isn't the only place that that's going to be, correct?
It's not, but I believe that, I guess Janine can pipe up, but I believe Janine publishes this resolution and posts this resolution, but I could be wrong.
But okay, if in fact the supervisor changes his mind and wants it in the township hall, in that advertisement, then he can modify that for the public hearing. Okay, it is what it is now, so I was just curious.
Okay, so we're gonna leave it as the annex, okay?
Okay.
All right. Anything else, Lisa?
No, those were the 3 changes.
Questions from the board?
I had one question, Mr. Supervisor, And maybe it's better resolved when we actually hold the public hearing. But there was a very good discussion by Treasurer Roman regarding the potential of upping the bond for a 5-year contract. And I don't know if there's been any new progression towards upping of the bond for the applicant.
That is still part of our conversation right now that we're in. Right now, I just want to move this forward and then we're going to.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes, Lisa.
I'm sorry. I understand that we didn't attach the Exhibit A to the resolutions in your packet. I just want to make clear for the record that the 70 pages are on file at the clerk's office. So somebody can come and look if they need to.
Yeah, it's rather lengthy. I didn't want to kill 2 more trees. Okay, so, all right. Yes, Liz.
Before the public hearing, could that be scanned and sent to the board, please? Just so we're prepared and have all the information.
It's actually just.
I'm sure
it can be, but it's just a legal description of all the.
You guys are frozen.
So,
It's just parcel numbers.
yeah, it's parcel numbers. That's all it is. So it's a lot to scan and send out. It is an available document that could be had. I'm not sure of its current status, if it's in Laserfiche or not. So.
Oh, okay. I can come look at it. I just want to, if we do have a resident come before and speak, I just want to have all the information in front of me, but I can come look at it if it's not able to be sent to me. That's okay.
It would be a rather large file to try to send.
Okay.
Hey, Liz, just so you know, the Exhibit A, all that is the parcel
It's
ID,
addresses.
parcel ID numbers only
Right.
for every residential property in the township that's bound by
Okay.
this resolution.
Right.
Okay. Mr. Roman, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I'm glad we're moving forward with this. The last thing in the township as far as services that I want to wait until the last minute for is garbage pickup. So I'd like to make a motion, if I can, to approve the intent resolution to establish the SAD known as the 2021 through 2025 Residential Refuse Collection Project, Resolution 20-017,
As amended by the attorney.
as amended by the attorney.
I have a motion looking for support.
Now support.
I have support from Mr. Lilly. Roll call vote, please.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith. Liz? Can Liz hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Mike Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Cowell.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Item 9B, Resolution 20-018, adjourning the Man and Lake Improvement Public Hearing until a later date. And that date is hopefully, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, sometime in July.
The
Specific
July
date
board meeting.
on that. Yeah, on the July board meeting. Thank you.
They pretty much just want that because they want to be able to speak at the meeting, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yes.
That is why. So that's all it is. So I'm looking for a motion, Mr. Roman.
Oh, I had a question for our attorney. Under location, since this is July, is this the same date as our regular board meeting? And do we want to make the location the annex?
As we should.
Yes.
This would have all
July-
the same language.
July 21st.
I would assume you want all the changes to this, just like you would the other one, because this has all the same language as the other one in all 3 spots.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll adjust the location then to the White Lake Township Annex.
Correct.
And with that change, I'll Make a motion to approve resolution 20-018, which is the Mandan Lake Improvement Resolution of the Township Board of the Charter Township of White Lake. Resolution adjourning the public hearing.
Thank you. Looking for support? Mr. Lilly?
Support.
Mr. Lilly supports. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Colwell,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith.
Yes.
Very good. Motion
Motion
carries.
carried.
9C, Resolution 2019, tentatively declaring its intention to establish a special assessment district to be known as Sunset Taylor Road Maintenance. It's my understanding this has been an ongoing SAD over the years. Is that correct, Janine?
That is correct.
Okay, so this is just a re-upping of this, so to speak, as we will call it. Any questions from the board? And again, Lisa, yes.
Well, I just want to make sure this is the same as the first intention resolution. So the
Correct.
3 locations, that being in the header where we say via Zoom meetings, we'll add in accordance with Executive Order 2020-75. We will change the location and we'll strike the words or alternative location. And change the location to the annex and we'll strike the terms alternative location. And additionally, in paragraph 4, second sentence, we will add language in there that says having appearing in person, we will add language to reflect or via Zoom video conferencing.
Duly noted. Okay. That being said, any other questions from the board? Mr. Roman?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 20-019, intent resolution for the Sunset Taylor Road Maintenance with all of the changes recommended by our attorney.
Motion looking for support.
Support.
Support from Mr. Powell. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Colwell.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 9D, the Oakland County CARES Act resolution that we have 2020-20. And that is going to put us into an agreement, hopefully with Oakland County Council. You care to comment on that? No? Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to, but the resolution simply adopts or authorizes the supervisor to execute the agreement with the county. And this is financing or funding that the county receives for coronavirus that they are distributing to Oakland Township local governmental units who participate in this contract. The agreement itself lays out what it covers, and it does cover the 25% that you have to spend for federal funding. So it doesn't hinder your ability to still get federal funding due to the coronavirus.
Correct. And this is the requirement for us to participate in this program. This program runs until January 31st, 2021. So again, if you want to cooperate with the county, you need to have this interlocal agreement in place. So this resolution will support that. So I'm looking for a motion to support. Any takers? Mr. Powell.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve and give the supervisor authorization to sign resolution 20-020 for the, and I'm not sure how to word the rest of it.
It'd be the CARES Act, I guess we'll call it. The
All right,
CARES Act distribution.
thank you.
Thank you. I have a motion looking for support.
Support.
I support from Mr. Roman. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes,
Rick Cowell,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes.
Motion carried. Okay, moving on to 10A. This will be old business, the second reading of zoning request of the New Hope White Lake. Mr. O'Neill?
Yes, hello, thank you. This, as you may recall, is the second reading for the New Hope White Lake rezoning project. You granted them preliminary site plan approval at your May 19th meeting, and at that time you moved the project from first reading to second reading. So it's pretty straightforward. They have moved ahead and submitted their final site plan for review. First review, I think it went out just actually yesterday for review. So they're moving along, and if you have any questions about the second reading, please let me know. But your package has all the information and details about not only the rezoning review, but also the site plan review as well.
Thank you. Any questions from the board at this time? Seeing none, I would like to make, I would,
I was sorry. I was just going to say for the record, this is again a rezoning request from R1B single family residential to PD plan development.
I would like to make a motion to move the New Hope White Lake along from R1D to PD. Looking for support.
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 Support. Moving it along. Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Cowell.
Yes. Okay. Item 10B would just be a clarification on the IT right contract. And what it was is we had talked after the presentation about the IT right security measures and countermeasures, so to speak, in our contract. That contract, if we had talked about it, it was a 3-year contract, but when the motion went through, it did not make it as a 3-year contract. And Andrea Voorhees in the background can be said going, it's a 3-year contract, and everybody go, and voices said yes, but yet in the motion itself, it wasn't said it's a 3-year contract. So what I'm going to do is go back and I'd like to have the clarification to that particular motion and the fact that indeed it is a 3-year contract at the, I believe, $46,200 a year. Looking for a motion and support.
So the motion that was made and approved by the township board today, and I'm going off memory because I don't have it in front of me, was a not to exceed and then the dollar amount. So it would just be clarifying that not to exceed is per year for 3 years.
Correct. That's fine. It'd be I'm making a motion to clarify that is the $46,200 per year for a 3-year contract. So I'm looking for a motion, or I'll make mine as a motion. So now I'm looking for support.
Support.
Mike Roman, thank you for the support. Roll call vote, please.
Mike Roman,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
yes,
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Cowell.
Yes. Motion carries. 11, new business. 11A, first reading zoning request of the White Lake Car Wash. Mr. O'Neill.
Thank you, sir. So this project, though it's named White Lake Car Wash rezoning, it really, this request doesn't have anything to do with the car wash yet. The owner of this project is York, and he is on the call right now. And when it's time, he's number 4656, and I had mentioned that to Ken, so Ken's aware. Ken, if you would, for me, please put up page 12, and I'll talk while you do that. Page 12 of that packet for this project, please. This property is There's currently a single family home on this property. It's currently zoned local business and R1C. It's split zoning, and we really prefer to not have properties that are split zoned. They are a little bit difficult to deal with for use reasons. Actually, and some practical reasons as well. The request is to rezone to general business, the entire property to general business. It's 4.9 acres in size. And while the applicant's intent is to build a car wash on this property, he's also included a sketch, and we'll get to that. He'll only be using a small part of it for the car wash near to 59, sort of where you can see in this red box, the current house and garage. That'll be the area where the future car wash would intend to locate it. But this is the first of many steps in this process. He would have to rezone from local business in R1C currently to general business, and then he would have to get a special land use to get a car wash approved for this site, which goes back to the Planning Commission and through a public hearing process. So there were some residents who may be on this call, who are on the Planning Commission call, who are very concerned about buffering, things like that. This property is roughly 300. It's quite deep. It's 605 feet deep on one side, and I think 660 feet deep on the other. So there's quite a bit of opportunity for them to do all the buffering necessary between the proposed car wash location, which just for orientation, you can see on this aerial across the street is the parking, or the shopping center with the Sonic in it and the AT&T, and then to the immediate east is a dance studio, and then Bell Tire and Tim Hortons. So just so your orientation is correct. And then if Ken, you can scroll to page 17, please. With every application for rezoning, we request a very rudimentary two-dimensional site plan, just a really rough layout depicting how the proposed project that they're really not legally bound to build anyway would lay out. Everybody comes in with an idea. So Danny comes in and says, I want to build a car wash. I'm buying this property. And so we ask him to lay out the car wash in its approximate location. And again, this is very conceptual. This hasn't been reviewed for any site plan requirements at this time, because this is just a straightforward rezoning request. But you can see that the car wash is pushed all the way up to the front of the site, almost in line with all the other commercial businesses at Front 59 to the east. So it is appropriate in its future intended location if this was to move forward, and it gives quite an opportunity for about 2.5 acres to the south of it between the residents of Twin Lakes to be buffered by possibly another less intense use, something that wouldn't have such heavy buffering requirements, maybe a medical office or professional office of some sort. Those things would also be allowed in the general business district. So the residents to the south, as you can kind of see in this aerial at the bottom of the sketch, we're very concerned about seeing and hearing this car wash use and any other use, and I can understand that. And so the ordinance will require in the future, no matter what use is built on this property, significant screening and buffering so that they're not impacted. So the Planning Commission recommended unanimously for approval of this to the Township Board. And just to let you know, the zoning review summary, the zoning review recommends it as well. And the notes in the summary state that it's recommended for approval because a requested GB zoning district is consistent with uses deemed appropriate for a planned business area, which is what the future land use is for this area. Rezoning the parcel to GB is compatible with the character of the surrounding area. Number 3, the intended uses will be adequately served by the site's location on Highland Road. Or the depth of the lot allows for adequate buffering for the residential properties to the south, which we just talked about. So again, as this review states, the rezoning of this parcel does not guarantee future site plan development approval. Those applications would still need to be made after this process is complete, again, if it is to move forward. So that is sort of my long-winded report, but if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them for you. And thank you, Ken, for sharing that.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. That's it seems to be an effective use of the property, and the placement of that particular business seems to have minimal impact, if any, on the residences that are behind it. And as always, we have to be sensitive to our residents that are in areas that were developed, 25, 30 years ago, and now there are other things that are around them that are coming to life. M59 could always be a lot noisier and have a lot worse business
Yes.
out there. Over the years, we've tried to be very cautious, and I know Sean's been very cautious of trying to be aware of having a minimal impact to our residences, yet letting the land be put to the best and highest and best use that there is. So for this time, any of the board members have any questions?
Mm-mm.
Liz Smith, please.
Really a question, just a comment. Thank you, Sean. I listened to this meeting and read the minutes as well. And I'm aware that there were several residents that were concerned about the buffer, and it's a little bit cart before the horse. We're not quite there yet. So I do just want to let those residents know that we do hear you and we do understand your need for buffering, and procedurally, we're just not to that point yet. So we're just, I know it was brought up many times in the meeting minutes, but for the public listening today, it was taken into consideration that this is just rezoning. It's not, going ahead with the car wash at this moment. And I do believe our board would be very conscientious to make sure that it was buffered appropriately for the residents, the surrounding residents. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, that being said, I believe we are looking to move this along to a second. Yes, Mr. Lilly.
I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, sir.
Should we give the opportunity for the applicant to at least say something if he'd like to?
Oh, yes.
He,
Mhm.
he's,
You can
yeah,
chime in. I guess we're just used to having him in the audience. We could look at him. That's a little.
Right.
Yeah.
he's 4656, Ken.
I'll bring him online right now.
Okay.
4656, you are open to speak.
Danny, are you there?
Hey, everyone. Danny.
Okay.
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't attend via video, but I'm on the road. So, I understand everybody's, concern with the buffering, and we'll certainly address that when we get there. But, like everybody said, we're about 300 feet away from the neighborhood. That's a pretty large buffer. I need to talk with my partners about what we would do with the excess land. We've kicked around the idea of donating it. We've kicked around the idea of, is there really going to be a use for some sort of office building back there? I don't, based on what the community would want, I don't think, I'd be surprised if something like that got approved. So, really how much, I don't know how much value there is in it. So I guess I'm, we're buying the property to build a car wash. We have no other plans for any of the rest of the property. And if we determine that it's better to donate it to you guys and maybe you do something, whether you make a park or something, that's certainly something that we're going to discuss. So I guess along with, the board, we hear you loud and clear. And the last thing that we would ever want to do is enter into a community and make all our customers, or make all of our future customers mad. So we don't do that. So yeah, that's it. I appreciate everybody's time and hearing us out.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So now we've had the owner input. So I would again, Mr. Lilly, I defer to you.
Make a motion to rezone the property from LB, local business, and R1C, single family, to GB, general business. The property described as parcel 1223 202 -006.
Mr. Supervisor, I believe Mr. Lilly's motion actually just moves it to second reading.
That's
Correct.
correct.
Correct. That is correct. We have a motion to move to second reading. Looking for support.
I'll support that movement.
Support by Mr. Powell to move to second reading. Roll call vote, please.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Colwell.
Yes. Motion carries. Moved on to second.
Thank you, Danny.
Thank you very much. Okay, 11B, fireworks permit for Cedar Island Lake. That time of year again. And I have had conversations with John Holland, and he was definitely in favor of moving this permit forward. So I would like to entertain a motion to move the permit forward, please. Anyone on the floor? And, Mr. Roman?
Is this for the firework permit, Rick?
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
I'll make a motion to approve the fireworks permit for Cedar Island Lake.
I have a motion to approve the permit. Looking for support.
Andrea will support that.
Under discussion, Mr. Supervisor.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank Cedar Island Lake for continuing with this. So many fireworks displays are being canceled, and I'm looking forward to this one. Thank you.
Yeah. And the only concern that we have is all of us that we hope people act responsibly and do in a proper manner and have as much social distancing as they possibly can.
Correct.
So we have motion, we have support. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman?
I have one comment.
Okay.
Yes, Ms. Smith?
Mr. Supervisor, you're freezing up a little bit, and I'm not sure if it's my end, so I think I'm reiterating what you said, so I'm sorry if I am. But just so the public knows, the application is subject to executive order, and I believe you said, to please ask our residents to act responsibly and continue social distancing and be safe. Is that the gist of what you were saying? You're breaking up a little bit on my end.
Correct, that is correct.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, forward. We have
Jerry?
roll call. Go ahead.
Jerry, question.
Oh,
We typically make sure we have a rain date put in on these permits. I don't know that this one has one. Do you know if it was discussed or if it was on the application?
That application was filled out by John Holland, so.
I do not believe there is a.
I
rain
don't
date.
believe there's a rain date.
Okay, well, the motion then is to approve the permit the way it is.
Yep.
Indeed. Let me look and see, so I'll double check everything. I do not, nothing jumps out at me as a alternate rain date.
Yeah.
Lisa, can I make the motion with a rain date to be determined?
You can authorize the supervisor to approve a rain date if one is proposed, consistent with the remaining terms of the permit.
Okay,
Let's do that.
can I amend my motion to
Yes,
allow the
please.
supervisor? Rick, you're good with that?
I am great with that, not a problem. Okay. I have motion, looking for support.
Support.
I have support from Ms. Smith. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Lilly votes yes. Mr. Roman?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Colwell?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 11C. Terry, I'll let you take the floor on this one. Yes, Terry.
Mr. Supervisor, at a previous meeting, discussed the situation with the board, and the board decided to put a hold on solicitation permits. Our office is requesting that we resume issuing solicitation permits.
I believe that we can do that in light of, I believe the governor's order allows that. Lisa?
No, what I was suggesting, Terry, when we spoke was that you resume issuing solicitation permits for those activities that are now permitted under the governor's executive orders. So, for example, the issue that this came up as was an ice cream truck. Well, that is allowed under the executive order, so it would be appropriate to issue the solicitation permit. But for example, somebody who's out advertising or marketing for, say, construction, that would not be an activity that's permitted currently under the executive order. So my recommendation, if you want that, is that you resume issuing solicitation permits for those activities that are authorized to be conducted under the executive orders.
I'll amend my recommendation and make that a motion.
I concur. We have a motion looking for support.
I'll
Support.
support.
Okay, I'm not sure who did that.
Give it to Mr. Roman, that's fine.
Andrea, okay, this hands up, really good, guys. Okay, Mr. Roman, you support it? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mike Powell,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees,
Yes.
Liz Smith,
Yes,
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Kowal.
Yes, thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, and we will stay abreast of the governor's orders so that we know what we can and cannot do. So that being said, we will go into trustee comments, but I have a little something I want to say ahead of time to our residents. My fellow residents, White Lake Township sort of made history yesterday or this week. But perhaps you may or may not have heard, White Lake was a location chosen yesterday evening as a protest location. This exercise in constitutional freedom was attended by two groups. A local BLM, Black Lives Matter group, attendees, and a pro-Trump police first responders group. I am pleased to say both groups voiced their opinions without incident. But more importantly, I would like to thank Chief Dan Keller and his team for ensuring the safety of all the individuals attending these two events. It's the policing of our department that builds our community what it is, and I say to them, a job well done. Moving on to trustee comments. Andrea Voorhees, please.
I'm taking us back to 1970. This wonderful piece of paper, someone gave it to me, and the two articles I'm gonna read out of it are about our trash and our police department, since we assumed trash contract tonight. So back in 1970, the residents of White Lake Township used L.E. Marlowe's disposable site on Rose Center Road for the disposal of trash only, no garbage. And those hours were Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 or 8 to 5, and on Saturdays from 8 to 12. Obviously, they were closed on Sundays and holidays, and no commercial dumping was allowed. Back in 1970, our police department, chief was L.H. Marsh. We had 2 sergeants, 12 patrolmen, and 5 dispatch. How far have we come in 50 years? I just love doing the little historical plus that just goes to show how far we've grown, like I said, in the last 50 years. White Lake the White Lake Citizens League is still hosting their fireworks on July 4th. So, I'm pretty confident they got their permit through Highland this year. And as always, I'm just going to finish off my comments by saying, be safe and be healthy. Thank you.
Very good. Okay, Mr. Lilly.
Mike, Rick, just like to invite any of the board members to stop back in the clerk's office. I can say that we are extremely busy with applications. It's just unbelievable. The Secretary of State has sent out apps over and above the ones that are our normal absentee voters, and we're just swamped with application at this point. So I would invite you back to the clerk's office to just observe the applications that are currently pending.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And hopefully we can make a little more room for you back there and stretch things out. Okay. Very good. Mr. Roman.
Thanks, Rick. I just want to remind residents that the township is open for business. We're now open by appointment only. If you call the township, you can make an appointment to see whichever department it is that you need. Just be aware that we will require that you wear a mask into the offices, and you will be asked a series of health questions, COVID-19 questions. And as long as you don't answer yes to any of those questions, we'll bring you into the building and you can take care of whatever government needs you wish. Also, summer tax bills are just about ready to be printed. Those will be going out in the mail, most likely June 30th. And to all of our residents, be safe. And that's all I had, Rick.
Thank you. Thank you. Liz Smith. Liz?
Okay, I'm here. I'm going to just give a brief update on the library. So I apologize, residents and colleagues, for looking down a little bit, but I'm going to read. So I'm giving accurate information. So the White Lake Township Library started their curbside delivery yesterday, June 15th. It's available from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. They're accepting curbside delivery, books, movies, and requests through catalog by phone or email. You may visit, of course, their website at any time, whitelakelibrary.org, for more updated and current information. They are enabling holds to be placed at this time. To minimize cross-contamination, they're only accepting returns at the drive-up book return. Materials will be checked in and removed from your account after 72 hours of quarantine. You can access books, movies, magazines, and music through the website, which again is whitelakelibrary.org. They will continue to offer wireless internet access from the front rows of the parking lot. A password is not required. If you need a library card or you have library service issues, please call the library at 248-698-4942 or email the library at reference@whitelakelibrary.org. They are continuing to follow executive orders and safety guidelines by the CDC. You should have all received a White Lake Township Library newsletter in your mailbox approximately last week or so. They are going to continue the summer reading program, so please participate and sign up if you'd like to. It's always lots of fun. That's all ages, children, teens, and adults. And lastly, they're doing their classes and activities will be virtual this summer. So things like story time and any kind of presentation that they would normally hold in the library will be virtual. And you can, again, sign up through their website. They've also updated their website, so I encourage residents to take a look at it. They've done a nice job. It's very user-friendly. So they are, open with some new ways, but they are open. So I encourage you to check out the library website for additional information, but I covered most of it. I also want to mention that we participated in White Lake in a couple just fun, interesting activities this last month. We commemorated the bicentennial of Oakland County by passing out oak trees. That was a lot of fun. I know a few of us were there and it was enjoyable to see residents and wave at you from a distance. So thank you for everyone that participated and planted those trees throughout White Lake. That is really something to be part of history, that we're celebrating our bicentennial in Oakland County. And then I also want to mention the small business kits that went out last week. Supervisor, is there any left?
I believe there are a few left. I'm
Rick,
not sure
can you?
when Oakland County is going to.
Okay, so
left. Go ahead.
So you're breaking up a little bit, but I believe you said there's still some left. So by appointment, if there's anyone that still needs one, you can go on to, there's a link on our White Lake Township Facebook page. You fill out a form. Sean's office can help you by making an appointment, and you're able to pick up a tote that has gloves, masks, hand sanitizers, and a thermometer. And this is to help support our small businesses throughout the county and of course in White Lake Township. So if anybody is in need of that, please contact Sean's office and they'll help you with an appointment and picking up on what's left. And then I just would also like to commend our police department and say how incredibly proud I was of our police department and our residents yesterday during a gathering. And Supervisor Colwell and myself were there. And I want to thank our police department. Public safety is always my #1 priority. And it was a safe event. I want to thank my fellow CERT members. We were there to provide safety again to our residents and be an arm to our police department. CERT is a great resource to our community. It saves taxpayer dollars. A CERT member can volunteer instead of, a police officer on duty. So we are assisting the police department in that way, and our taxpayer dollars as well. And so I just want to thank everybody, our police department, our residents, and CERT for all being safe, and thank you so much. That's all I have for this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Powell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. We had a zoning board of appeals meeting last week. Those of you that travel Elizabeth Lake Road might notice that we granted a variance for a front yard setback for a proposed new home on Elizabeth Lake Road. They're going to be taking down a home and putting a new one back up. They were looking for a front yard setback, allowing the garage to be closer to Elizabeth Lake Road than what the ordinance allows. And to mitigate that issue, they were concerned that backing out onto Elizabeth Lake Road with a front entry garage would be very dangerous. And most of the homes encounter that problem. And so they have proposed a side entry garage that requires a little more room than a front entry garage. And so the ZBA for health, safety, and welfare issues allowed that variance to allow them to have a side entry garage to exit their garage safer onto Elizabeth Lake Road. We also denied a request of a property owner to essentially build a 3-story home in a residential area that that the rest of the homes don't even have basements. And the Zoning Board of Appeals felt that the zoning ordinance was very clear, and we did not grant a waiver or agree with the applicant to allow them to build a 3-story home. It would have been not in compliance with the rest of the, not compatible with the rest of the neighborhood. That being said, I'm also extremely proud of the police. And I do notice, those of you that haven't noticed, that traffic has picked up. The police reports that we get have identified that the activity of our department has increased from last month to this month, showing that there's more traffic. The police department, the fire department has also had more calls. So it's obvious that people are feeling freer to go about the township, and I'm glad for that. I also want to speak for myself, and I think for the rest of our board, that as long as this board is in place, we will not support any defunding of our police department. We're very proud of them, and we are in major support, and will support them every chance we get. Finally, it's certainly with a heavy heart, and my heart's the same as the rest of our board and the rest of all the residents in White Lake, that there are a few of us that are old enough to have lived through the '67 problems in Detroit. And we see that occurring nationwide. And we need to learn to listen to each other a little bit more and hear each other and be a little more sensitive to the concerns of others. And I long for the peace to come back to this country and allow us to get along in peace a little bit more. So thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Powell. Thank you so much. As Mike Roman said, we are here to serve you. Hopefully we will be able to kind of come back on track. It would be nice to have a July meeting where we could actually meet and greet and see people again. However, until the executive order is lifted or at least the number of people that can gather publicly indoors is lifted. Because when you take a maximum indoor number of 10 people, that's the township board, the recorder, the fire chief, and the police chief, and you're done. So there's no room. So hopefully we'll get that going. We are going to be moving all of our meetings to the annex. There is just in general a lot more room in that facility, and it'll be more comfortable for people. And we're refurbishing, or I should say, reintroducing some new technology in there that'll make things a little more functional for us for our time while we are in that building. I had a good time the other day in the woods. I came across a few extra trees, and I went out and I planted 50 trees out in Stanley Park and got carried away by 500 mosquitoes. But it was well worth it, and I enjoyed it. They were all swamp oaks. And maybe 40 to 60 years from now, when somebody wonders why there's these big swamp oaks in a big circular curve around the south side of the perimeter of the clearing area that's down there now, I'll know where they came from. But it's
That's
definitely,
great.
yeah, to be able to do that. I'd like to give a salute to Mr. Steve Suser. Those of you who do not know Mr. Suser, he is the proprietor of The Root, of which The Root is no longer with us. The Root has now changed to Stella's Table. And Stella's Table is focusing on an urban Italian flair. So I am most anxious to go in and check it out and see what's going on. And I would love all of you to go out there and have that same curiosity. Steve's a survivor. He's definitely trying to make a difference in our community. And I believe he's very deserving of our business. So I'd like to put that out there. Huron Valley Schools has closed their leisure pools. They will not be reopening. The pools have cost them a tremendous amount of money over the years. And unfortunately, I remember a time when those pools went in, there were people talking about it, and everybody just thought that was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. But inevitably, swimming pools have water in them. And water in pools is like water in boats. Sooner or later, you're going to have to repair the hull. Sooner or later, you're going to have to repair the building and everything else around it because the water does the damage. And now that's come to a very, very costly expenditure. And right now with the state funding in jeopardy for the schools, Mr. Paul Salah, the superintendent, has really, and his board are really left with no choice. The education of the children needs to come first, and the general maintenance and welfare of the facilities is extremely important. We should be moving ahead, if all goes well, with the water main down Bogey Lake Road that will provide the Lakeland School campus with clean water in conjunction with our new iron filtration plant that we're in the process of doing a pilot study for. That will be located at the Aspen Meadows facility up off of Grass Lake Road. And that will now, if we continue this, we'll take where Mr. Powell is nodding his head, where Mike and I have both really been proponents of pushing this forward, that would put 100% of the water produced in White Lake Township on iron filtration, which will make a huge difference to our infrastructure, which means the longevity of that infrastructure will be better. Not to mention your washing machine, your toilets, the orange line on your house, and all of the above. So it will happen. It's just going to take a little bit of time. We're in the preliminary engineering stages right now. And with that, another item that Mr. Powell and I were working on was that when this easement and right-of-way is gone down Bogey Lake Road, that we came up with the thought process of doing an overlay for a walking path on Bogey Lake Road. So wherever feasible and possible, we're going to try to receive a double layered easement so that we can put a walking path in that's much needed. And hopefully we can get the school system, which seems to have very cooperative leadership now with the township in partnership with these projects. And hopefully we can get the Safe Pathways to Schools program moving and be able to attain somebody to help defer some of that cost for that pathway. We also have pathway going in now over near Redwood that stretch underneath the ITC corridor is coming in. And thank you, Sean, for being vigilant with that, keeping that moving along. And
no problem.
talking to the Park and Rec board regarding the Township Triangle Trail, and that's starting to move forward. So we're starting to get some
I
traction.
see these smiles on Mr. Powell and I's faces. We're so happy.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we are moving forward. We're also moving forward with our planning of our Civic Center. Our Civic Center Development Committee has been kind of hit and miss due to this COVID virus, but we are moving forward and have started some conceptual spatial planning with the public safety building and the new Township Civic Center building, our new home, hopefully. So that's coming together. So with all that, I say White Lake is a great place to be. It is a home. It is truly home to so many of us that we feel a need and a desire to serve. This board that we have has served this community for the last 4 years, and it will hopefully be in a position to serve for another 4. So that I say to you, good night, God bless, and I'm making a motion to adjourn. Looking for support.
Support.
Support from Mr. Powell. Excuse me, from Mr. Roman. The motion, support, roll call vote, Mr. Lilly.
Liz Smith,
Yes.
Andrea Voorhees. Mike Paul,
Yes.
Mike Roman,
Yes.
Mr. Lilly votes yes, Mr. Kowal.
Yes. No, meeting is adjourned. Good night and God bless.
Good night,
Good
everyone.
night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We just have to stay on for a few seconds here to let YouTube wind down.